First story. Poisoned water in Texas. Now, again, I asked like 5 people, did you hear about the boil water advisory in Houston this month? Like this week? They were like, no, what are you talking about?
In fact, I did.
Did you?
Actually, would you like to know where I heard it?
Where did you hear about it?
On Independent Left News.
Hey, how about that? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, Anthony, Satan News Network. We're going to have some fun.
What's that website you got?
That's IndieLeft.News. That's right.
IndieLeft.News. That's what it is.
Yep.
I found it.
So, poison water comes from our friends at Courthouse News Service, Cameron Langford. Millions of Houston residents are warned to boil tap water. Okay, so this is crazy stuff. And Misty even shared a tweet. I don't have Misty's tweet, but she was outraged, as we all were. A power outage at a water treatment plant triggered the notice, which will remain in effect until Texas state regulators test samples in a lab. Well, this was like Monday, right? And we have our stock photo shot of somebody shopping for water. And now there is none, by the way. But Houston's mayor said early Monday that he expects a boil water notice affecting all the city's 2.3 million residents to end Tuesday. They're hoping. The advisory, which was issued late Sunday by the city, came as a surprise because it was sunny and 75 degrees across greater Houston earlier in the day, with no widespread weather events, it seemed, that would necessitate such a warning like Hurricane Harvey in August 17 or Winter Storm Uri in February 21, both of which caused mass power outages throughout the region, right? But it also raised the question of why city officials waited so long to notify the public. This is amazing, given they set a power outage at a water purification plant about 10 miles east of downtown at 10:30 in the morning on Sunday, caused the water pressure to drop below the state required minimum PSI of 20 pounds, right? Well, when water pressure falls so low, right, groundwater carrying harmful bacteria can enter cracks and holes in pipes. Bacteria that can only be removed from water by boiling it, which experts say. I think there are even people that question that. But I wouldn't. But Houston's DPW is advising residents to boil water for drinking, food prep, bathing, and brushing their teeth, and not to use water and ice dispensed from their refrigerators though water pressure was restored to all customers shortly after the outage. That's gross. But, okay, Director of Houston Water, who's more than 1,400 staff members manage pipelines and treatment plants in a 600 square mile area, said residents who drank tap water before they learned the notice shouldn't be worried about their health.
No.
System pressure was never zero. It always remained pressurized. It just fell below the regulatory limit, and that's why I'm not concerned. She said the city doesn't issue boil water notices as soon as the power goes out at a treatment plant, as it must first verify that pressure is dropped in the system below 20 and notify Texas Commission of TEQ, right? TCEQ. Yep. There are a number of steps in the regulatory process before you issue one. We didn't want to unnecessarily alert the city if we didn't have to. Mayor Turner backed her assurances. City's now focused on regulatory hurdles to remove it. Okay.
She means people. She didn't want people to panic. That's what it sounds like.
Panicking by boiling their water? I mean, by going to a store and buying bottled water?
Right, buying all the water.
Right.
Yeah.
So she said early Monday that the city had met the first requirement, which was obtaining the approval for its water sample testing plan. All right. Workers will begin collecting samples this morning, do 2 complete sets, send the lab for processing. Okay. They got to be observed at the state lab for 18 hours, Water issues were undoubtedly a welcome trade-off. For some of Houston Independent School District's 194,000 students, district canceled classes Monday, giving them another day off following a week-long Thanksgiving break. Oh, this actually belongs in the next segment. I don't know why it's here. I moved it the wrong.
Yeah, that's Ruffalo.
So that's part of the fracking. It
probably means thing. It didn't move to the other one.
That's in the fracking thing. Yeah, I have the wrong thing. Okay, anyway. But to follow up, our friend Erin Brockovich also wrote an article this week about it with Suzanne at the Brockovich Report. Great Substack. We have it recommended on our Substack, the BrockovichReport.com. She was trying to get people to subscribe for Giving Tuesday. She does great work about water. So let's unpack the boil water notice that occurred earlier this week and what happened and let's look at it from her perspective. Now, she uses Unsplash, which is stock photos, and credits the photographer. I love that. But we know that this guy said that Sylvester Turner said they issued the notice in an abundance of caution after 2 transformers, a main one and a backup, uniquely and coincidentally failed at a water plant, according to a story in Dallas Morning News. Problem affected the plant's ability to treat and pump the water in the transmission system, resulting in low pressure. We know this. By Tuesday, testing confirmed that tap water once again met all regulatory standards. Notice was lifted, but not so fast. The order prompted officials to close public schools and inconvenienced many residents and business owners alike. Sure it did. All right. Bigger story here is about the frequency of boil notices, advisories, and do not drink orders as they are becoming more common in cities and towns throughout the nation. They're indicative of larger drinking water problems at play and show the gaps and failures in our infrastructure. Well, if anybody's been talking about that for the last couple of years, the last umpteen years, it's been this woman. And thank goodness for that. Texas being one of the worst offenders. So when they had their freeze in February 21, more than 14 million people were under boil water notices thanks to the extreme cold. An estimated 1,550 were issued in Texas in 2015, up from about 1,100 in 2012 and 650 in 2008. So they keep issuing more and more and more. In fact, from 2011 to 16, boil water notices in Texas increased by 73%, according to a 2018 paper published in Texas Water Journal. Total of almost 6,000 notices recorded during that period. That's a lot of boil water notices, man. I haven't gotten 6,000 boil water notices in my town. I haven't gotten one that I can think of. Population growth throughout the state has created higher demand for water on a system that's already taxed. Much of that responsibility for future planning falls on Texas Water Development Board, which works on the state water plan. And this really gets a little bit granular, but you need to know this stuff in order to be able to figure out why isn't it working the way it is. State water plans on a 5-year planning guide for state water policy designed to anticipate and plan for the water needs of Texas based on conditions that are similar to the most recent drought of record. The SWP seeks to plan for the state's water needs 50 years into the future, which is much smarter. Right? TWDB estimates that implementing the water projects recommended by the regional planning groups in the 2020 SWP will require $80 billion in capital costs over the next 50 years. Wow. We just sent $100 billion across to some Nazis. We could have certainly done something with that. And the agency expects $47 billion of that to come from state financial assistance programs. So federal wouldn't even have to subsidize $80 billion or whatever. They would only kick in a portion of that. This is just to fix Texas, I get. But that's a big fix. Biden's infrastructure plan set aside about $35 billion for Texas projects, but it's unclear how the money will be spent or what projects it'll fund. Of course, because they want to be able to launder it and filter it wherever they want. White House estimates that about $2.9 billion should be allotted specifically for drinking water infrastructure. Yes, that's what they estimate, and there'll be all kinds of hurdles and loopholes and things to jump through, and I'm sure there'll be people that will be friendly donors to what, to whoever donated to them to make this happen. You can guarantee is going to be the beneficiary. That's how it works. Study authors, all right, I'm not going to say their names, said in a 2018 paper that the rise in boil water notices is most likely attributed to drought because drought and soil moisture loss can damage water infrastructure. Okay, well, that makes sense. Severe droughts pose a threat to drinking water quality because the resulting loss of moisture in the soil often causes water pipelines and ground to break or leak, which then compromises pressure in the system, triggering a boil water advisory. Sure. High population regions like Houston, Dallas metroplexes experience higher than average boil water notices during the study period. These regions account for more than 42% of the Texas population. Yeah. So thanks to aging infrastructure, rising population, extreme weather events, and climate change, it seems like boil water notices are on tracks to be much a part of Texas life as barbecue and big hair. But Texas isn't the only offender when it comes to these notices. Okay, from the calls and emails that Erin receives, she can easily estimate that there are 1,500 boil water advisories happening each month in the United States, but no one is tracking them at the national level. The EPA is not tracking boil water advisories, people. Are you kidding me? Suddenly, losing access to clean water or wondering whether the water is safe to drink is both a huge inconvenience and a health hazard. No one wants to receive this kind of wake-up call. Well, we just did. Public utilities issue boil water orders as a preventative public health advisory, usually when heightened levels of bacteria are detected in the water. Boiling water helps kill both harmful bacteria and parasites. Residents are usually advised to bring water to a full rolling boil for at least 1 minute to kill any unwanted organisms. Many people opt to drink in
pasteurization.
Right. And many opt to drink and cook with bottled water during an advisory. Either way, telling residents to boil water before they drink it helps make it safe for consumption, but certainly causes a lot of headaches for consumers and city officials alike. Plus, there's the issue of public trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That no one has.
They also are telling you not to bathe in it. Not to bathe in it all day long. That's unconscionable. All right. A communication crisis, of course. So Mulkey and her study co-authors suggested in their paper that increasing strategic crisis communications about boil water notices and other water issues is needed from public water systems. How about fixing the fucking systems? The authors explain that
I do get that, like, I do get, like, we get boil water notices here when we have, like, a hurricane, you know, like, which is normal.
That's what they get, too.
But, like, right. I mean, this is also, like, due to failing power systems, and this is infrastructure across the board that's failing on this one.
Right. You got to fix the problems. The authors explain that a communications plan needs to show clarity, commitment, transparency, honesty, compassion, and engagement to help foster trust between the public and the city. Yes. Quote, if utilities are not communicating in a timely fashion about when customers need to boil their water, that can cause a rift in the trust that the customers have in the utility and question the overall quality of the water being provided by the utility. Again, Valerie in the chat, I got a shout out. She says, does anybody actually drink their water right now anyway that comes out of the top? I would say the answer is no, but I do brush my teeth with it, number one. I don't do that with bottled water. I also shower with it. I also do drink like stuff like my coffee I make out of the filtered water from the refrigerator, which comes from the line. So I do use some tap water, and Jersey Tap is actually pretty decent, believe it or not, because it comes from upstate New York. But
yeah, I mean, the worst part of that is the fluoride that they're putting in stuff.
I've had that my whole life, though.
You know, yeah, I know.
Right? And she's actually written about the fluoride and why do we need to mass fluoride people, and you know, it's like same thing with, you know, universal requirements for vaccination. It's fluoridation. People require different ones, but Texas can learn from past. Go ahead.
The issue with that is that, you know, it's a medical procedure you're forcing on everyone, essentially.
Well, fluoridation is too. Yes.
Yeah.
You're drugging the water. So, exactly. You know, so anyway, Texas can learn from past mistakes. That can affect
multiple people in multiple ways, which it does. You know, but we're going to get into that pineal gland soon, you know?
Yeah.
With that. But anyway.
Ineffective communication strategies, such as those experienced during the Corpus Christi water crisis in 2015-16, create a broken foundation of trust. Corpus Christi city officials were slow to communicate to the public about a chemical leak in the water lines that sparked a series of boil water notices. Most residents didn't find out the cause and severity until watching the nightly news or through word of mouth. This misstep weakened public trust in the Corpus Christi water system. And communicating in a simple language can build public trust. Very simple. Water infrastructure is so technical, and we use all this jargon as water professionals that doesn't necessarily need to translate to everyday people. We know this. So as this guy wrote in a 2019 article, no utility wants to issue a notice. But if it does happen, it's important to get it right, even if your utilities had a long, unblemished record, delivering high-quality water. One mishandled contamination event will leave a bad taste in your customer's mouth, so to speak. Yep. Terrible phrase to use. Like a field goal kicker in football, and as unfair as it may be, one big miss can overshadow years of trustworthy performance. Well, I would say this is a little bit more important than a kicker missing the winning field goal, but...
Well, this is also, and I'm surprised Brockovich didn't talk about it, we're in Tejas, right? What part?
Yep, Houston, Southern.
Right. So we're talking about the
Hurricane
oil
Alley,
fields.
Hurricane Alley, oil.
I,
Sure.
that's what I'm thinking of. That's what the stuff they're talking about is getting back into the water. Do they frack in Texas,
I believe
or is
they
it just
do. I think you got double.
drilling?
And
Okay, which that could make things even worse.
good.
So
So, yeah, water, folks. Water. Yeah, water. All right. Pretty crazy. Anyway, so Rick. Yeah, Valerie, thanks for the warning. Yes, we do need to do more research. Brushing your teeth is enough sometimes. But
and
yeah,
she was talking about
oh, Rick.
she was wanting to switch to filtered rainwater, and rainwater might even be worse than filtered tap water in
Is that
particular
right?
areas.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
CS
like you
Moria,
get
welcome.
this is where having a mother who is adept in water ecology, you know, um, helps you. It's like both rainwater and groundwater is highly affected by what we put in the air and ground. So, you're around a city, the rainwater itself could be toxic, you know. So,
Ah,
or you're around a city, so then you like you might as well filter the tap water that the city, because the city's already filtering it. They're already treating it at the water treatment. So, the issue is again, if they do fluoride the water and that's a problem for you. But there's ways around it. Well water is probably safer in some cases, but that depends on where you're at there. So, you definitely need to know where like water is coming from generally. Florida's a little different because we're a giant sponge anyway, you know. So unless you're right on the coast, doing wells is not bad. But you then have to treat that water yourself with, those big, like I remember back in South Florida, we had
tablets.
those like big things with the salt, you know.
Yep, those big
You had to put
salt
rock
things.
salt in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yep, yep. We actually had a water purification system that came in, a water softener. Because we have very hard water in my area. It rusts out
chlorine's
stuff.
chlorine's usually fine.
Stuff's
They're putting
gross.
chlorine in. Like, yeah, you probably can smell it in the summer because like that but the parts per billion they're probably using is like still extremely low. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like there's probably all sorts of other stuff in there that is at the same parts per million. It's just like got to deal with bacteria somehow. You know what they do in I want to say the Netherlands. They do this in a few places. There's a few videos of it on YouTube if you want to go look. They use mollusks, little clams, right? And like they have sensors on the clams, and they feed they like put water through because they're filter feeders anyway, right? So, but they have like a few of them with like a little sensor, so if they close, they'll like it sends an alarm, right? So like if they're freaked out or whatever by the water, right? Like it identifies, sets off an alarm. You can go look, see if the water's fucked. You know, usually they know before we do. So
You need to know if the water's fucked.
also, oyster farming is a big deal if you're wanting to clean water supplies.
Well, oysters do cleanse the
Filter
water.
feeders do a pretty fantastic job. Yep.
They
You
certainly
know,
do. They certainly do.
so and they're
Um,
delicious. Bread them, fry them, put
I'm
them on
not.
a sandwich.
I'm not a fan. Clams, I am a fan
I
of,
feel
but
you.
oysters, I'm not personally.
There's
So,
the
so
French are a
yes.
big fan of them. They do a thing with I've always wanted to try it. It's raw oysters usually come with accoutrements. Even here in the South, when we're doing them down here, it's hot sauce and a cracker, right? But there they'll do a thing called granitas. They're like they're an Italian thing, I think technically, but you like freeze like grapefruit juice or
Hmm.
watermelon, and then you come by and you take your fork, right? And you like fork all that stuff up and then put it back in the freezer and fork more, and you get like this like slushy, snowy ice stuff, and then you put that on the oyster, you know? So
Rick says yes. We frack in Texas, by the way.
Yeah.
They got the
Barely
double
steam 'em.
header. They got the
That's the
double header.
problem.
The fracking and
People
the
want to do it raw, which is like, okay. But, you pop them on the grill for a little bit,
all right.
just
I,
steam
I
them up, just
all
a
right.
little tiny bit.
I think we're done with oyster talk. All right.